And welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited for you to be here. I am Desiree Alexander on Twitter. I'm at Educator Alex. If you notice in the chat box, I'm typing in both of our Twitter handles. So if you tweet something at us so we can see it, we want to communicate with you, okay? So we are not going to be on camera today. So it's no reason to start your camera. The only person we want to see is Sarah. And how you communicate is through the chat. You can also sign up for my newsletter where I have a whole bunch of information that I sing out every month. You can do that at my website at alex.net/here. You'll see the sign up at the top, or you can just go to educatoralexander.com. This is me. This is how you contact me. Yay! So this is all of my contact information. You can also get it from the website, guys. So again, I'm Dr. Desiree Alexander. I'm so happy to host this today with the amazing Sarah. I'm going to mosey on. So we have some more coming up. We do have docs on Thursday. So if you love this, even if you don't, sign up for docs. We also have one tomorrow for counselors. So yay. Then we have sign language on Saturday. So you see how we have stuff like almost every day this week, guys. And it's all for free. You can sign up at edalex.net/events. We also have classroom management in July. We have diversity, equity, and inclusion in library communities in July as well. We also have misinformation in the information age. I just want to at that one, right? We all need that. And that's going to be in August. And then we have the amazing Sarah coming back for templates for teachers with Beth. We also have a summer camp. We don't do the summer camp, but it is by Kids Academy, and it's completely free for teachers for grades pre-K through 3. So if you know any of those little ones and they want to do a summer camp this summer where they can learn stuff, that's a really awesome opportunity. For parents, it's going to be $20. For teachers, it's free because you get a 60-day free trial. And I do see the chat just going. I love it. I'm going to get to those in a second. Then we have a couple of paid opportunities. The Rethink Learning Summit, I'm going to be presenting there. Really cool. Again, all of it's on the website, so I'm going very, very quickly through it. We have BER that has some sessions. We have EdChange Global, which is a 24-hour international conference that you can join us for completely for free. We have the United Ed Tech Conference, which is elevating people of color's voices in ed tech. And then last but not least, the Indiana Connected Educators. I saw we had some Indiana, whoop, whoop, is having their conference, and I'll be presenting there one of those days, and it's all on the website. You can register for that. So I'd like for you to know, if you want to learn this summer, you can learn this summer, guys, okay? And we will have an evaluation at the end. The only thing that we ask of you is to fill out an evaluation, okay? Because it gives Sarah some feedback, and that's what we want. So a couple of things for my people that are just coming in. Number one, stay off of your camera. The only person we need to see for this one is Sarah. Number two, you are going to be muted, but the chat is your friend. Type all of your questions in the chat. And number three, I'm going to stop my screen so Sarah can start sharing hers. Number three, if you want a certificate, you have to sign in. So you sign in. If you came a little late, that's okay. We'll get you signed in at the end. But I did just check. I did just put it in the chat box as well. Okay. So you should be able to hear. I think somebody said they couldn't hear. You may want to, Cheryl. Well, I'm talking to you and you say you couldn't hear. But so that doesn't really make any sense. But I'll try to type to you. So we're going to go ahead and get started when Sarah's going to share her screen, and she's going to tell you why she's one-handed today. But she didn't cancel. She's still here with us. She's a trooper. She's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to shut my mouth and shut my face and give it away to Sarah.
Thank you, Desiree. As Desiree said, I am one-handed today, so I might be a little bit slower than if you know me, that you're used to, and I'm also a big hand talker. So you'll only probably be seeing my right hand. I had shoulder surgery last Wednesday, thanks to an injury from running with my dog. He went left, I went straight, and I dislocated my shoulder and dented a bone. So the orthopedist said the only thing to do would be to do some surgery. So I am on the road to recovery, doing physical therapy, but I'm also, I guess, somewhat locked in this brace for the next probably about a month or so. So that is the reason that I have this strap, but I did sport my green because today is all about Sheets. And Google Sheets is a Google app that I know can be very intimidating. I know I was quite intimidated by it until I started like jumping in and playing with it and using it. So I do want you to know that you're not alone if you go Google Sheets, oh geez, like spreadsheets, like I can't do Sheets. You absolutely can. And in fact, my website that I write roughly once a week, I've gotten to be a little bit slower the last couple of weeks with this injury. I refer to it as Tech You Can Do because I do believe that in sharing out I call them adventures that I have as being a technology integration specialist, is stuff that anyone can do. Very little of what I share out do you really need to have super solid background knowledge or advanced skills. There are times that I can take you further, but a lot of what I share out is for the masses. And I do try to, boost your confidence and your belief that you can do technology regardless of where you're coming from. And I know I get the comment quite often, and Desiree, I'm sure you've heard this before too, is, oh, well, I know this is probably a stupid question, and you just know so much more than I do. And well, like I tell people, I'm like, I'm about 7 years in on this adventure. I would kind of hope that I do know, a fair amount, but I also do invest quite a bit of time in playing with Google applications and technology and applying them not only in my professional life, which I'm a technology integration specialist for the Ross Local Schools. I've been employed by the Ross Local Schools. I was a classroom teacher for 14 years and just wrapped up my 4th year of doing technology integration. And every step of the way, I've gone through a couple of different grades. I started 5th grade, and then I moved up to 7th and 8th grade. And now I'm at the elementaries, which is pre-K to 4 for us, split between 2 buildings, and I absolutely love it. Every step of the way has taught me something about myself, about technology, about what I can do, and about what technology can do for us as teachers, and even in my personal life. Sheets has played a big role in a lot of things. If you have the tiny URL, I'm pretty sure, Desiree, you've probably popped it in the chat a few different times. It's right here on your screen. This will take you to the spreadsheet that I've got up right now. And the cool part about it is I thought about, like, how could I kind of force you into using Google Sheets? And I thought, well, I mean, to show its versatility, I went ahead and I did the whole presentation, and you'll have access to it if you go to the tiny URL. You will see that this is a Google Sheet, which is probably not your traditional presentation method. Most people are probably used to seeing like a Google slide or even a Google Doc, but I thought one way I can showcase Google Sheets power is I'll just make the whole presentation in Google Sheets. So if you notice down at the very bottom, we're on the title page. So that's the first thing to know about a Google Sheet is that number one, the color. I'm big with color, and Google products are all big with color, so you need to associate the color green. That's why I wore my green shirt. That's kind of being hidden a little bit, but I wore my green shirt, and Google Sheets is green. So when you see the icon, you know that you're in a Google Sheet. And you see here's all of my contact information. And just a real quick side note, Desiree and I know each other because I was fortunate enough to be selected to attend the Google Innovator Academy in New York City back in October, and Desiree was my coach. So, and it still is my coach. She's a big supporter, and I very much appreciate it, her giving me this opportunity to share sheets with you and docs on Thursday, and 6 more after that. I think it's a total of 8. And just these will be intros. They're meant to get you going, get you a little bit comfortable, and maybe kind of like tease you a little bit and say, you know, these are things that it could do. And that's the cool thing about Google is while this is a spreadsheet and most people would connect that with numbers and number crunching, that's not the only thing that Google Sheets can do. Google Sheets can do a lot of different things. As Desiree pointed out, we're both on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter. You can feel free to email me. I did see quite a few people that I'm personally connected with in the chat. So thank you guys all for joining me. And if you're joining us later, thanks for joining us. And then my website's on there as well, Tech You Can Do. Desiree, before we get started, are there any initial questions or anybody?
Not that I can see.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to move this out of the way. So again, I apologize if I'm moving a little bit awkwardly. I really am one-handed at this point. My left arm is pretty stuck right where it's at. So a Google Sheet at its basic is a spreadsheet, which does indicate a lot of number crunching. But the way I've set this up, I'm hoping that it will open your eyes and show you that there is far more that you can do. And if you haven't already, I think I set the tiny URL up to force a copy. Is that accurate? Or is it just a view only? Do we know?
It is view only.
Okay. So the first thing, if you haven't already, what I want you to do is go up to the File menu and go ahead and make a copy. That way you'll be able to hold on to this, and if you are comfortable enough, and not everybody will be, and that's perfectly okay, but I do have some of this set up to be time for you to play around and for you to do things within this Google Sheet, and I'll do the same, or I should say similar things on mine. But if you want to make your own copy and you want to do your own version of what I'm doing, go ahead and do the File, make a copy, and then you will actually become the owner of everything in that Google Sheet.
So Sarah, we did have a comment that they like how you put the slide in Sheet, so they definitely want to know how you did that.
And that is something that we will cover, but I do want everyone to understand that that is a cool thing that you can do. Like spreadsheets, you think it's all just going to be text or numbers. Nope. This is an image, and you can see I'm pointing at my screen like you guys can see that. You see the blue dots around the icon, or around the image. I can shrink it, make it bigger. You know, I can move it slightly if I wanted to. I prefer to use my arrow keys to do that. But that is something, and there's actually 2 ways that you can do that in Sheets. That's just one of them. And this actually is a Google slide that I created and downloaded and then insert into the sheet. So that's one real quick off the top. Like, not everybody would probably think about doing that. So down here at the bottom, if you notice, and I've got them numbered because we're going to kind of go in order. And this also will help you when you want to refer back to it. A big way to really understand any Google product is to understand some of the vocab that's involved. And Google products are really good about having similar, not identical, but similar toolbars. So we're going to start off with a little bit of vocab. So those of you that are language arts teachers probably will appreciate this, but it's also a nice little way of displaying how a Google Sheet can be a place where you can share out this stuff, or you can have students working collaboratively to create something like this. It doesn't just have to be in a doc or in a slide, you know, a word on a slide and a definition in a text box. If you notice, it's a little bit more visually attractive, but honestly, it's just a different way of looking at things. So what you can see up here, what I did is the first major thing that you need to understand about Sheets is that there are tabs. And down at the very bottom, you see that there's the title page, and then now we're over onto a second tab called the toolbar and vocab. Some people might also refer to Google Sheets as workbooks. That might be another phrase that you would hear people refer to them as. And it typically will start out with just one sheet at the bottom, one tab at the bottom. And I use sheet and tabs kind of interchangeably. When I talk about Google Sheets, it's more just a comfort thing because I understand that that's the same, but then they have some differences. So like a workbook would be this entire presentation that I'm giving to you. Some people might only refer to this as a tab or this as another tab or a sheet. But don't get caught up in the vocab. And if you've been using Google for any length of time, you probably also know that Google has a tendency to change things. Sometimes ways that we refer to things, they change, and then you're like, shoot, now it's called something else, and you have to adjust your vocabulary. So don't get too caught up in any of that. Another cool thing that I don't often pay attention to is this second item on here under tabs, that there are 4 horizontal lines, which is a little bit different than the hamburger menu that a lot of us see. And this is pretty cool down here at the bottom left. If you hover over, and again, this is something that is across the board in Google, hovering over icons or small little areas, you might get these pop-up little menus. And this one's called All Sheets. So if I hover over this and then I click on it, it brings up an entire list. So I might have had 25 tabs going out to the right, you know, along the bottom. You can only see up through 4. On my screen, I can see up through 4, depending on the size of your screen. But you can actually see here, there are a total of 7, the title page, and then 6 that I've numbered. And you also might notice something else, which is one of my personal favorites, is that there are colors. And we'll get to that, I promise. And if I forget to highlight that, somebody make sure that they ask about it. But you can put little colors, and you have to really look at the bottom of the screen, but you see right underneath title page, you see a dark green line. So I've added color to each of them. And then you just click on the 4 lines, and that goes away. If you'd like to add a sheet or a tab, you just click on the plus sign. So you're in math class. Like I refer to that with students. Like if you're in math class and you want to add something, what's the symbol? Well, it's a plus sign. So you see that plus sign, add in a tab. And then really the biggest pieces to any Google application, if you can kind of grasp and really understand, is that there are 2 main toolbars. One is very, very, very word heavy, and you can see I took a little screenshot and I added that in here. And it's the words right here. It's a very word heavy toolbar. And then the second one, the image heavy toolbar, is the one directly below it. You can see it's more images than it is text. And here might be a good spot to show you how to insert a picture. So if you remember on my title page, I just had it kind of like floating over the cells. Here it's different. Notice you don't have the blue boxes in each of the corners, so that it's not a free floating image. So what I did, and I'm going to add it over here so you can maybe see it better. I've selected a cell, and then here's where the toolbar really comes in handy, and I think, oh, I want to insert. Okay, so I've got to insert. You come over here and you look around, you go, oh, there's an insert word. Let's check it out. So I'm going to insert, and then it drops down this whole menu. So a lot of Google, I think, works very intuitively. It works very clean and simple. If I want to insert something, I'm going to go to the insert menu, and whether I want to insert a row, I want to insert a column, a chart, an image, a drawing, and go down the list. Here I want to insert an image, and I have two options. So image in a cell, which would be I just want to put it in this little blue box over here, or I want to put an image over the cells, which is what I did on the title page, so that I could freely move that image wherever I wanted across the entire sheet. So that's an important difference. This would contain it just within that one little cell. So let's try it and see what that actually looks like. So we're going to say image in a cell. And this probably should look familiar anytime you insert an image, whether it's in a doc, a slide. Now that you know it, you can do it in a sheet. You can upload it from your computer. You can use your camera. You can upload it if you have a URL of an image. If you have photos on your computer through your Google Drive, or you could do a Google image search. Let's search for, let's find a dog. And you look through and you say, hey, let's put in this little cutie right here. So I'm going to select that dog. And I just picked a dog just randomly. Obviously, it doesn't really go with the Sheets theme, but, and then I say insert. Give it a second, and then what do you notice? He's in there. He is really, really super tiny though. Okay, so that's super incredibly tiny. Now, for those of you, this might be very helpful since that is so tiny and your screen is very tiny. Do you see this 100% over here? Again, I'm hovering over it. Notice the word zoom pops up. I'm going to click on what I like to call the little shark tooth. A drop-down triangle is what I joke with the kids. I'm like, it's a shark tooth, guys. Other people might call it a drop-down triangle, but really it's a shark tooth. And you kind of get them used to these. And they really do take notice when you say that. You can pick these different percentages, and you see how it zoomed in on my screen. So it's zooming in this workbook. It's zooming in on this sheet. And you can see up here you're at 125%. Another way of doing that, if you're on a Mac, you're going to use the Command key. If you're on a PC or a Chromebook, you'll use the Control. And again, I refer back to math class. If you want to make something bigger, so you're going to, again, on a Mac, it's Command. On a PC or a Chromebook, it's the Control. And then you hold that button down, and then you tap your plus sign. So I'm actually enlarging the whole screen. And you can see the little magnifying glass up here. So I've zoomed in 150%. So you can really zoom in a bit, but you see that dog's still pretty tiny because he's only fitting in that cell. And then of course, every once in a while, how do you get back? Well, you do the opposite. So the opposite of addition is subtraction. So it's either, again, the Command key if you're on a Mac, Control if you're on a PC or a Chromebook. You go back to 100% and you say, well, Sarah, I'm not happy with the dog being that small. Well, here's where some of the vocabulary for Sheets is really going to play in very importantly. We need to make that cell bigger if we want the picture to be bigger. Notice all of these, obviously, that go across horizontally. They're all rows, and that go up and down are columns. We all understand that. So you see the dog is in row 9, and it's pretty thin, but you notice row 7 and 6 are a lot thicker. They're a lot taller. So I'm going to select the number 9, and notice how it goes blue across the screen. And if I slightly move my hand down and I see that little up arrow, and you see a little blue line, I'm going to click and I'm going to pull that line down, and I'm just randomly picking. So I made row 9 a whole lot thicker, a whole lot taller. And notice the picture of my dog also got a whole lot bigger. And you say, well, that's pretty cool. Made him pretty tall, but now, I mean, he's still not that big, and you've got this space up here at the top. Well, you can do the same. If you can do it to a row, you can also do it to a column. So grab your column I, and you can, again, columns are going to go wide. So you can go to the right, see the arrow, and you can make that, keep pulling it to the right, you make it even bigger. And that image, because we inserted it into the cell, grabs it proportionally and makes it larger proportionally. So keep that in mind. That's also might be a great way for math teachers to talk about proportions with students, because it's going to fit the size of that cell, but it's going to keep it proportional. You notice it's not just completely filling up that whole cell. There's still some white space over here. And then while we're here and we're talking about this cute dog inside this particular cell, each one of these boxes is called a cell, and they all have a specific name and a number, and they're all figured out the same way. So the dog is in, and I feel like I'm playing Battleship when I do this, but it's in column I, row 9. So I would tell the students, I'm like, look in I9. So then you go over, you know, the alphabet I, and then you come down to row 9, and that's where the dog is. You know, you could also say, look for the arrow. It's in G15. So here's G15. Actually, it's 16. Sorry, my bad. You know, so it's almost like you're playing a little bit of Battleship. But that's how you can direct students into particular cells. And you say, well, Sarah, what if I don't want that dog in there anymore? Easy enough. Click on the cell and hit delete. He's gone. But notice the cell does not revert back to that size. You would have to come back and you would have to arrange it back to how you had it prior, if that's important to you. For me right now, it's not that big of a deal. And please do know, like with these toolbars, and I'm spending a lot of time on here because if you can understand the toolbars and you can navigate around these toolbars and within these toolbars, you're going to find that you are a very successful Sheets person. And again, clicking on them, you see a lot of options down there. And a lot of it, if you think intuitively, if I want to insert something, there you go. If you want to format something, there you go. If you're looking for some items connected to data, here you go. So I did include that here in the tips. Think a little bit logically about what you want to do and see if you can find a word or maybe an image that seems to match what it is that you're trying to look for. Desiree, are we good on questions or?
Yeah, I think most of the questions we are answering, like either I'm answering or other people are answering.
Awesome.
I know someone wants to talk about formulas, but we see that that's where you're going to format our formulas in tab 2. And the only question we couldn't answer was, can someone use this resource during their own training?
Like share this out with other people?
Yes, like if they're doing a Sheets training, can they, I guess, modify and use this resource?
I would not mind. I'd obviously appreciate credit and, you know, maybe like a little shout out, but yeah, absolutely. I do want to be able to pass on help when possible. So sure.
And then another question, what is meant by the theme of the sheet? I
Oh,
think you were talking about the dog. Yeah.
Actually, Sheets is pretty new into this, at least as far as I'm aware. But you can, like with in slides, how you can pick themes and it will kind of like give you a consistent theme across all of your slides, regardless, you know, like whatever type of slide you want to add. Sheets is new into that as well. I'm not quite sure that I really care too much for it, but I also don't care too much for the Google Slides themes. I like to kind of start from scratch on my own. Let me see where. See, I don't even use it enough to know. Oh, there it is. So, and honestly, like anything with Google, if you don't know what it does or what it is or how it works, click on it. I mean, you can always do the, you know, Control Z, the undo, or that little arrow right there, undo what you just did. but it provides you the ability to carry like a common color scheme for those of us that might be color challenged. I've been told that I like to use too many colors, and I do. I love color. Google Sheets makes it easy. You know, my color is green on this one, but you can pick one of these themes, and when you go to insert text and colors and all that, you can select your theme. Maybe you're feeling energetic or ocean. You can also customize. Again, this is a pretty new feature in Sheets. Like, it has not been around that long. So I'd really suggest you kind of play with it. It appears to be one where if you're creating a lot of reports or you're really sharing out a lot of data, that might be a good item to use. I hope that helps.
We do have another question I was responding is, how do you add color to a cell?
Oh, beautiful. So this, it honestly, a lot of these things, like once you know, you'll be like, oh, of course I knew that. And again, I'll comment back on like Google Slides or drawings or docs. If you're familiar with any of these, if you understand, again, the toolbars, I can't say enough. If you understand the toolbars in one Google application, you'll understand it in all of the other ones for the most part. So let's pick our cell where we had our puppy dog. So we want to add in color, right? So again, we got to think like logically, okay, I want to fill this with color. Look for the paint bucket that is tilting. So I'm going to give you a clue. It's on the image heavy. It's on the second toolbar, the lower toolbar. Look for the paint bucket. And when you hover over, it says you're going to fill color. So you click on that paint bucket and it brings up your little color palette. This top part is your standard that comes with it. I have added in these particular colors down here at the bottom. And then here's where, if you have selected a theme, where it pulls that through. This appears to just be some generic colors that are included with this theme, but let's say I wanted to fill in this cell, I9, with this bright neon green. So I've selected it, I selected my paint bucket, and then I click green. And there it is. Now, alternatively, this is filling in a cell, and I'm just going to do this right next to it, which is another nice way. If you've made a copy of this, you could be playing along with this PD right now. You could be doing this in any cell and practicing it, 45 times if you would like. But you can also make the border of the cell a particular color and not just fill in the cell with that color. So again, it's going to be a little bit different. We're not filling in, so we're not going to use the fill color, but right next to it is the borders. So I've selected that particular cell, and you can always select more than one cell as long as they're touching each other to do this. So you click on borders, and obviously I just have one box, so I am going to go ahead and select the whole outer border. I'm going to click on it. Notice my menu doesn't go away, and this is important because you can do a couple of things to customize here. So I've put a border around this particular cell, and if you notice the pencil gives you now the border color. The default is, I believe, always black, but let's say I wanted to make it, I'm going to go with my favorite color, red. So I'm going to pick red. The line underneath the pencil changes. And then underneath that, you even have the option for border style. So again, this takes Google Sheets and changes the whole idea behind it. It's not just about plugging and chugging numbers or data or charts and all that kind of stuff. Like, you can really pretty up a Google Sheet in a lot of different ways. And you can see that I've done that. So click on your border style and you have options to what the border of that particular cell is going to look like. Not crazy options, just a handful. So maybe I want to make it a thicker border color. And you can't really tell super well right now, but you will be able to tell when I click on a different cell, and you can see that it's got a nice thick red border. around it. You can likewise fill in a border around a cell that you've completely filled in too. So that's a little bit about color. While we're right here, another thing that you might be interested in is if you notice my big like header rows, it is one continuous cell straight across. It doesn't have the column dividers. And this is really powerful. I love this because you can, spread your text out for these 3 bullet points. You can spread them out and they don't have to just fit into a particular cell. And you do that, it's called merging cells. And if you look at the Sheets vocabulary that I've got over here, I've got a lot of them highlighted, and then I even have like links to little help topics. So I know that we're not going to be able to cover everything, and I know that you probably have additional questions. So I tried to highlight a few of the features, but then also give you some links out to other places where it could provide you a little bit more detail. So you can see that this actually covers 3 columns. So all I did was I said I want it to be 3 columns wide. So I selected this cell. I prefer to use my keyboard. It also helps me currently because of my injured arm. So I'm going to hold the Shift key and I'm going to arrow over. So I've selected these 3 cells and I'm going to merge them into one. So I've got these 3 cells, and then ironically it's right back up next to where our border color was. And it was grayed out before because you couldn't merge one cell, it's its own. So if you click on this, you merge cells and it becomes one continuous cell as opposed to the 3 that it was before. So then anything you do in this cell, it's going to cover that whole area, which gives you a big difference between, see how this one covers 3, that's just 1 column. So it gives you a lot of customizability. Gosh, maybe that's even a made up word, not sure. But you can really customize the look of your sheet to make it work for what you're looking for. And then as you keep going down, again, we're going to dive in deeper with some of these particular ones as we go across into the different tabs at the bottom. I just want you to know, like, if you keep scrolling, I do have a lot of information packed in over here. The toolbars and the vocabulary, again, if you can understand that and become comfortable with that, it's really going to help you in a long way with understanding and being comfortable with Google Sheets. So before I move on to the tab with formulas, any questions so far?
No questions right now.
Okay, I'm going to move this. I got to move this guy out of the way. Kind of hard to do with one hand. Okay. All right, so let's move on to, just real quick, we were talking colors. Do you see the little shark tooth down here next to number 1 toolbar and vocabulary? The little shark tooth. When you click on that, that's where you can change the color on the bottom of your tab. And all I did for this presentation was, that's the first tab. This is the second tab, third tab, fourth tab, fifth tab, sixth tab. And I was lucky, like that's how I planned it out. So I was able to use those 6 different colors.
Sarah, we do have a quick question. How do you get to a brand new sheet?
Brand new.
Starting from scratch.
Brand new, like not just adding into this particular.
Yeah, just like if I wanted a brand new sheet, the different, I guess maybe 1 or 2 ways to get there.
Okay, so there's a really easy way to get there, and I'll show you 2. On a new tab, if you do sheets.new, literally that's what you type, sheets.new, and you hit enter. There you go. Brand new, generic, plain, nothing to it. You feel free and you customize out the wazoo, whatever it is that you want to do. I love that, except for the problem that I have with this is you've just created this new sheet and it just is sitting in your Google Drive. I am a big fan of opening up your Google Drive, which I'm going to do now, and then jumping into the place where you want to hold any of your, so maybe I want to put this in my professional folder. Open up professional, you know, and I want to put it in my Google Trainer folder. And then maybe this is where I want my new sheet to live. So then I come over to the new, and you can make not just a new Google Sheet, but you can make a new Google Doc, you can make a new Google Slides, and then if you hover over them more, you can also create a lot of other Google products in here. The other thing to note about this is another reason why I kind of like going into Google Drive is they do have templates for Google Sheets. And I guess while I'm here, I might as well go ahead and show you. I also have this housed as a resource too for us. But we're going to create, did I click new or did I click template? Oh, yeah, I did click template. So Google also shares out a lot of templates. So you don't have to start from scratch if you do not want to. So if you're a teacher and you don't have, now I would not recommend this if your school provides you with a grade book, definitely use theirs. If your school doesn't provide you with a grade book, you could utilize this template that's called Gradebook that they have set up, and I'm sure looking at some of these charts, they probably have some formulas built in. If you're looking for maybe a to-do list, or if you handle budgets for maybe a program at school, you're the advisor for something, maybe you're getting married, they have a wedding planner in here, or you're a coach, or you need to come up with pros and cons, or another cool thing is you could use this with students. Students could use these templates and create pros and cons lists. You know, maybe you're trying to decide between two things. And it does go on. There's not like thousands of these templates, but there are some pretty nice templates in here. And again, like these are just templates. You start with them and then you can kind of customize and add or subtract the things that you want that are specific to you. So that's a really nice thing. And that's also why I do prefer going in to Drive, the new, and then that little caret. You can either create a blank one or go to their template gallery. And each of the Google applications has that too. So that's an important thing to note as well. The template gallery is a pretty nice little place to go. So I hope that 2 ways, sheets.new, and then go into your Drive. All right, so let's go into formatting and formulas. And the formatting, we've actually already done several of these things. So here's where we get into some of this play around. So if you're already comfortable with creating a new sheet in this tab, maybe you move on to task 2. Or maybe you're like, oh yeah, I got 1 through 5. I'm gonna move on to task 6. I'm not going to necessarily go through every single one. So if there's ones that you would like demoed, if you could pop them into the chat, and then Desiree, if you could call them out. I will try to, I'm going to pick a couple of things in here that I think probably would be more helpful than others. We've already done actually task 7 where we selected a cell and we changed the color. I'm going to create a new tab because I think this is very helpful. We've talked about it, but notice I'm on this formatting and formulas tab. I'm going to come over here and click the plus sign, which again, for math folks, it's pretty easy. You know, you add a sheet and notice it just pops that sheet in right next to the tab that I was on. They're calling it sheet 9. So the first thing that I would do is I would probably rename it. And you can do that one of 2 ways. If you click on the little shark tooth and you can click rename, or my favorite is just double click on the words. When you double click on it, you notice it kind of turns blue and it's kind of shaded. I'm going to call it my new sheet, and then hit your enter or your return button, and you've now named this new sheet. And it's completely generic, and you haven't changed anything about your other sheets that you've got. So let's see. So we've done that. I've created it. So I'm going to find cell A1. Remember, they're all named. And I'm going to write the word name in here. Easy enough. I click in that cell, I type, fantastic. What is task 3? Write 5 random names. I did kind of try to put this in a logical way. So if I type in Sarah, whoops, Desiree, I'll pull in one of my daughters. Let's get some boys in there. My husband, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I've got 5 names in here. Let's see what we can do with this. You can change the font, the color, the size, just like you can in many of the other ones. So I'm going to pick my name, and here's your font. Go through, you can pick out a different font that you might like. You can make it a different size. Change the color. Notice it's right next to our paint bucket, the text color. Again, my favorite color is red, so I'm going to change it to red. And you notice how it kind of starts to help you see the different pieces of information that you've filled in. Not calling it data just yet. And then you know, over here it's talking about making the columns wider, making row 1 taller, changing the color of the cell. Those are things that we've done. This is one of my absolute favorites, is freezing rows. And you can do this with columns as well. So let's say on my new sheet, I have a list of names. Think of it as your class roster. So you have all of your students listed here. And you type them in, and maybe you get a new student, or maybe somebody moves away, or you just need to reorganize them. I don't want to lose the title of this column. So in essence, what I want to do is freeze this whole row. I want to freeze all of row 1. So maybe I've got the name here. Maybe I have like, I'm just going to make up some stuff, some parent name. Maybe I have a phone number in here, and maybe an email. And let's pretend like I've got all of this stuff filled in. If I were to try to, I could literally pick these up. If you click on that row and you see the little hand, pressing and holding on that number, you can manually move them around. I find that very awkward and cumbersome. I'm not a big fan of having a mouse with me, so it's kind of hard to do on a trackpad. So what I'm going to do is I want to keep row 1 always at the top. So what I'm going to do is, this is maybe one of the lesser used tools, but it's fantastic, is the view, and I'm going to freeze it. So I just want to freeze 1 row. And I want to freeze that first row. Notice I could do more. And if I had selected maybe down to row like 10 or something, this would say up to current row 10 because I'd selected 10, but I'm just doing row 1. And now you see that gray line. And if I scroll, and let's say I have 100 students listed on here, if you notice that top row always stays at the top. I never lose what those column headers are. This is probably one of my favorite uses in Google Sheets, because you can have a mass amount of information. And if you teach more than, say, 1 class, like if you're more than self-contained, like you have 2 or 3, when I was in 7th and 8th grade, I had 6 classes, which was roughly 150 students. So you can imagine trying to find particular students and not knowing what those column headers were was a little bit of a challenge. When I learned how to freeze that top row, game changer, loved it. And then if I wanted to, let's say I filled out all the way across row 1 and I had all kinds of information in here. Maybe I'd done some sort of survey and had all kinds of information about all of my students in there, and it kept going and going and going. But once I get past on my screen, column M, I no longer know what student it's connected to. And if I'm, further down in the sheet, and then you just kind of go, oh gosh, I wish there was a better way. Well, there is. If we can freeze rows, we can also freeze columns. So again, go back to view, freeze, and I'm going to freeze 1 column because that's my students. So then you see these gray, it almost becomes like a T-chart, if you will. The gray lines, those mean that those are going to stay. So if you scroll to the right, notice my student names are staying here. And then if I had more information up here in row 1, I'd be able to easily connect Sarah with whatever information was in column P, and I would know what student that was all about. That's great, especially if you were to use like the gradebook feature or to create a spreadsheet that is housing grades. You know you're probably going to have more than maybe like 10 assignments. So if you freeze column A that has your student names in it, and then these become your assignments, you're golden. You'll know which student belongs where. That's a very awesome use of Google Sheets. And then that's also where formulas will come into play here shortly. Going back to our little task list, let's sort.
I do have a question about freezing. I'm not clear on the question, but you may be. She said, if you freeze the row when I sort, will that also allow us to sort easier?
Yes, and that was actually what I was going to hit next. So we're going to sort, and we're going to want to put our names A to Z. And it doesn't matter if you go A to Z, Z to A. If these are numbers, it will still show A to Z. Just know that even I, like, as many times as I've done it, I always sit there, and sometimes I have to do it twice because like I don't always think about it the correct way, but you know, undo, redo, we all get that. So let's sort our names. And like I said before, you could like hand move them around. Kind of cumbersome, it's kind of awkward. So let's sort column A. And you notice if I hover over column A, there's this tiny little shark tooth that appears. Anytime you see a shark tooth, it tells you that there is more, that click on me and something will drop down. There's something there underneath that. So click on that little shark tooth, and it's going to go ahead and select that whole entire column, and it's going to give you some options. You can copy, paste, insert, hide, all that kind of stuff. What we're looking for is we want to sort it A to Z. So if I click on this, keep in mind, we've frozen row 1, and that's important to freeze that row. That's our column header, and we're going to sort. And notice it takes our names, whatever the first letter, whether these were last names, first names, whatever you have, obviously first, it's going to alphabetize them. So it went A, C, D, M, S. So it alphabetized us. And notice that the name stayed up there at the top. And this even works kind of cool if you type in Lisa and you type in Mark and you have spaces in here. Again, like let's pretend like a student leaves and you want to take their information out, but you want to resort, or you have new students that are added in towards the bottom. Find that little shark tooth, sort sheet A to Z. Oh, I don't want to do a filter. Hang on. Get rid of that. Okay, let's do that again. Click on that little shark tooth. We want to sort the sheet A to Z, and it takes out all of those blanks that were there. So that's another important thing to notice. If you need to have specific breaks in between here, you're going to need to kind of like hand manipulate that. But if you're looking to get rid of blank rows, you can easily do that when you do the sorting. And then obviously the opposite works as well too. If you want to do Z to A, you want to go backwards, just flip that around.
So we have a couple of questions. One is about the freezing of the, freezing. If you freeze on one sheet, does it freeze on the next tab as well?
Nope.
Okay, that's it.
Keep in mind, each sheet is its own piece. It's not like a slide where if you change the size of a slide, it's going to change it for all of them. That's another nice feature of a sheet, is that what you do to one particular sheet only happens on this particular sheet.
Okay, and my next, that's what I thought, but I was like, let me make sure before I'm giving Gloria the wrong information. And then the next question, I'm trying to see. I think I lost it. Oh, okay. Can you show how to sort data where all of the, like how like the whole sheet go to data and go to like data has a header row? So all the information will follow each other?
So let's say I had phone numbers in here.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously these aren't real phone numbers. Okay, so I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we want, let me give her a phone number too. So we want to sort the phone numbers, which could be a grade, it could be an amount in a bank account, or it could be like whatever your number or value is here. If I want to sort by this column, and this is something that I do find as a big step up from Excel, is Excel you always had to have that sorting row all the way to the left. With Google Sheets, I'm just going to leave everything like it is, and I want to sort by phone number. So again, I'm going to sort by column C. So I'm going to click on the little shark tooth here, and I'm going to sort the sheet A to Z based on column C. So it kept Allie with the number 413. It kept Sarah with 555. It kept Charlie with 3410. It sorts the entire sheet but keeps the row of data with the correct row of data. It doesn't just adjust these particular numbers. I hope that's answering the question.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm trying to make sure I'm answering some of them. Is there a way to keep the names on one sheet to the next sheet? Copy and paste is my only option? Question mark.
It is a great option. However, again, my brain goes automatically to like a teacher with a class roster. And maybe you don't want to have to copy and paste every time. So here's a trick. And again, this was not something I was intending on showing. I'm going to add in a new sheet so we can see what this really looks like. And now I need to scoochie. Okay. Oh, and that's another thing down here. When you start to get multiple tabs at the bottom, if you have a trackpad or if you have a little roller ball, if you can roll right and left, you can more easily go through and find the tabs that you're looking for. Don't forget about the 4 lines here where you can go through and you select the particular sheet you're looking for. So let's say, and I'm thinking as a teacher and I'm thinking of class rosters. So I want to have column A look the same on sheet 10 without constantly having to copy and paste. Okay, so what we're going to do, and this gets into formulas, so those of you that are here because you're really interested in learning more about formulas, here is probably one of them. It's a pretty basic formula, and it's just so I'm going to go to column A on sheet 10, and I want it to look like column A on my new sheet. So I'm going to click cell A1, again, A1, and then I'm going to click the equal sign. And if you notice, it's a very tiny, slight change. So I deleted it and I'm going to put it in again. Watch the equal sign, it changes slightly. And it has like a little bracket. I did not put the bracket in. So what Sheets is meant to do, obviously, is a spreadsheet. So it's dealing with numbers and formulas. And for those of us that are math teachers, I was never a math teacher, and the kids probably are glad about that. But the simplest way to think about it is usually the equal sign comes like at the end. In Sheets, it needs to be the first thing because that's what triggers a sheet to say, hey, they want me to do something. Otherwise, it just lets you fill in space and information and all that. That equal sign kind of triggers something in Sheets and says, hey, wake up, you've got a job to do now. So I click that equal sign. I'm letting that cursor flash. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my new sheet. Notice that it's still there, okay? So it even says sheet 10 apostrophe A1. You can see that like, it's actually hiding the cell that I want to pick. So I don't know if I can get behind there or not. Let me go back here. Nope, I don't want it to show A6. Okay, let's try this. I'm going to actually drop down just a row just to make it easier. So if I do equals and I come back to my new sheet, and then I'm going to select a cell, and notice that it pops in the single quotations, the my new sheet cell A1, and then I'm going to hit enter. And when I come back to sheet 10, it's carrying whatever I filled in my new sheet, which is the other sheet. And this sounds very convoluted. So I needed to grab that connector. So what I'm actually going to do is now and this is just the initial part, I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste that up here. No, I'm not going to do that. Come on, little buddy. And let's change this to cell A2. So if you see on here, I've connected it to the previous sheet, and I've told it that I want it to be the same. I want it to equal whatever is in my new sheet, cell A2. And here it even has like I imagine this to be like a little speech bubble. And it tells me that in cell A2 is Allie, which is true. So I'm going to hit enter. You cannot see the formula anymore. You see what is in cell A2 on my new sheet, which is Allie. Now, here's the thing. We want the whole column, right? So I'm going to go back to sheet 10. I'm going to select, which actually holds my formula up here, but this is really what my eyeball sees. And there's a little square. And this is a pretty cool tip as far as Google Sheets go. So let's say I want to now see that whole entire column. And I don't want to have to keep going back and forth because that's a little bit of a pain. And I'll say it's even more of a pain when I only have one hand. So when I hover over that little blue box, it turns into a little plus sign. So it's actually going to carry the formula down for me. So I'm going to go down, and I could go down as many rows as I wanted to. And it pulls through. Notice it's just the text. Remember how we had changed the color for Sarah, the font for Sarah? It's not going to pull all of that through, but really thinking as a teacher roster, I don't really care too much about what that font and color actually looks like. And then likewise, if I want to get my column header, I'm going to click on that blue box and I'm going to drag up. And it's going to pull through the title of that column. Now, here's the pretty awesome thing. See, these are the names that we have here. If I come back here and I add in another name, let's add in my other girls. So I've added Maddie in now. When I come to sheet 10, because I carried that formula down, Maddie's in there. She's in cell A9, just like she is on my new sheet. Now, please notice it did not carry over the freezing of the rows and of the columns. You would still have to redo that, but that's an alternative. It takes a little bit of work, but then as you modify, and if you resort these, watch what happens. If I put these in alphabetical order again, I go to sheet 10, it has readjusted on this sheet as well. Now, please do note that if you have data connected over here, and you resort column A on my new sheet, it's probably going to disconnect. It's not going to necessarily reflect a resorting on sheet 10 because the entire sheet is not connected. So keep that in mind too. But if you're just looking for like the roster names, that's a pretty cool way of handling it.
Sarah, I've just learned of a way that you can do that too without a formula.
Oh yeah?
So if you go down to any of those and click the little arrow, any of the sheets, and click the little,
Down there?
yeah, and you click copy to existing, you can actually copy it to this same spreadsheet. And it will just create another sheet. Like if you pick the exact same spreadsheet, it'll just create another sheet and it'll be copied.
Yep. So I could just copy that whole entire tab, right?
Yep, and just double click on like whatever your the same one, and it'll just add another sheet for you,
Yep.
another tab for you.
Another thing you can use is the duplicate, and it would duplicate everything that you have on this this particular sheet as well. Yep.
So we have another question. Is there a way to share a tab without sharing the whole sheet workbook?
That gets into very tricky territory. And I do believe that there is a way. I am not going to sit here and tell you that I am an expert with that. That kind of stuff really makes me very nervous because I do feel like even if you think that you have done that, I do feel like there are ways around it. So like if I were to hide this sheet and I share this presentation out, you'll be able to go in and unhide sheets. So if you're looking just to share a particular tab, I would, honest and truly, I would recommend, because a lot of times I feel like that comes with you want to not give access, which means it's probably some private information or some sensitive data that you don't want somebody else to have. I would make a copy of that sheet into a whole new Google Sheet and share that out. There are ways of doing it. It's just a lot more complicated than I think that we probably have time for, and I am by no means an expert in doing that. So if you wanted to share just sheet 10 with, maybe I want to share this with my sister Angie, what I would probably do is I would duplicate this, or I would copy to a whole new spreadsheet, and then I would share that whole new spreadsheet with Angie as opposed to just trying to share a particular tab. I know for a while, several years ago, teachers were trying to have each student be a tab and then just share that particular tab with a student. And I think it got kind of dicey as far as like students finding ways of kind of like breaking that. And that kind of makes me a lot more cautious. So it's out there. I know it is. And honestly, Googling it probably will be your best friend in finding that answer.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I do think that's more of a level 2 with publishing the sheet kind of thing.
Right.
This also may be a level 2, but I just want to make sure you get all the questions. Are you able to transfer a column of names into labels? Like printing name tags.
Oh, printing name tags. I'm not going to lie. I am not a big fan of I love gathering all of the data in Google Sheets, but I have sat there and I have played with and manipulated sizes of the cells and the fonts and the text and all that kind of stuff. Get all of your data in, make it look like a very boring spreadsheet like this. But then I think Avery is a pretty common label, whatever brand of labels that you have. Go to their website and then upload your sheet to them and use their template. I don't know what exactly it is, but I can never, it'll work for the first 10, and then starting with the 11th one, it's kind of wonky, it's kind of off, and then You get to the 15th one, and then by that you're printing half on this label and half on that label. I long gave up, unless you're going to like go to a paper cutter and you've got like the whole sheet is a one sticky label. I much prefer going to the company of your label maker and pulling my sheet into their template. And I know that may not be a very popular option. It can be done. I've just never seen it done very well if you're printing an entire page of labels. It just always seems to get kind of wonky.
I agree. And I've used an add-on before that was really good. But okay, so we have can you repeat the second way to copy information, like using the little arrow and copy to the same sheet or a new sheet?
To copy like a list?
Oh yeah, the little arrow on like where it says my new sheet. That and copy to.
So if you want to copy to, so it would take this whole sheet, my new sheet down here, and I want to copy it to a whole brand new spreadsheet. So I would just click here, and it says that it's successfully copied it. I have the option to open that spreadsheet, and you notice that it just takes this particular tab. Give it a second to load, and down here you now just see this one particular tab as opposed to, I don't know, what are we up to, about 10? I think we're at 10 spreadsheets or 10 tabs down here. So you just have this one particular tab. So I've copied that out. Likewise, the other option, and I think Desiree pointed this one out, you could also copy to your existing spreadsheet. So within this particular, so we've got, I think, 10 tabs at the bottom. If I copied it to my existing spreadsheet, let's go find my recent. This is my presentation one. I'm going to select it. And I could pick any of these other spreadsheets though if I wanted to. And it's going to pop it in. And then I'm going to see it down here. It throws it all the way at the end of all of my tabs down there. So you've got a copy of my new sheet all the way back there at the very end. So we're on this one. It's got the check mark. We could go all the way down to the copy of my new sheet, and there it is.
So Sarah, mixing questions with when you ask them, like, what are the things they wanted to know? So I'm just going to tell you the 4 things that between questions and what they want to know. They want to know how to do averages, drop down, check boxes, and how to protect information or protect a sheet.
Okay, so let's pretend, like, let's say this is assignment 1. Let's do assignment 2. So I am just real quick faking out some of these this information for these students, right? Because we're going to pretend like these are students, and then we're going to pretend like these are grades. And honestly, these mean nothing, but you're going to see in a second mathematically how this works. So formulas, again, think math class. Okay, so let's say I wanted to see how many total points Allie has. So I'm going to make a column here, and this is just going to be like our little playground, right? Total points. So I want to see how many total points she has. So in math class, we would need to add these all up, correct? That's easy enough. You could sit here and you could add them mathematically. If you have a calculator, you could do that. Or, again, let's use our formulas. So in math class, we would, again, for a sheet, we have to start with our equal sign. And here's where using a sheet becomes far more powerful. What I want to do, that little bracket, I want to take assignment 1, and notice it's filling in that I'm actually grabbing cell B2, and I want to add these up, right? So I'm going to put in a plus sign, and I want to add assignment 2, which is in cell C2. See how it's even coloring it, match the purple with the purple here. And I need to add one more. So I'm going to add in another plus sign. Becomes very simple math, right? I'm going to add in cell D2. Notice the little speech bubble shows us a real quick, and this is probably one that's fairly easy. You could grab a piece of scratch paper and add these three numbers together. And even if you're just estimating, you see that it's going to be 428. So now I'm going to hit the return button. So Allie's total points adds up to 428. Now that's what you see here. This little area up here is your functions toolbar. And you can see that the formula that we have in this is your equals, and we've added cell B2 plus C2 plus D2. And you go, oh, Sarah, do I have to repeat that? You know, go here, hit my equal sign, click this. No, actually you do not. Do you remember how we copied down when we wanted all of column A to repeat on the next sheet? So I'm going to click on that little blue square, and I'm going to copy the formula all the way down. So I'm going to click, I'm going to drag down, and I'm just going to go to my last student, which is Sarah, and I'm going to let go. It grabs the formula and changes to that particular row of information. So for Charlie, it's assignment 1 is in B3 plus C3 plus D3. And that's going to give us this as a total. And you can mix and match. You're adding and you're subtracting however you wanted to do it. So then hopefully, I mean, that's pretty simple. Very straightforward. Works very nicely. Now what if we wanted the average? So we're going to put in a new column, average. Average is a little bit trickier. And I'm going to show you a great feature in Sheets that works just like, again, you can sit here, you know, I know math teachers really appreciate this, and being able to like write out the whole entire formula. That's great. We're not all math teachers, and sometimes we just want things done quickly. So you see this little, and I'm going to guess that that is a Greek symbol of some nature, but it's got a little tiny triangle, a little shark tooth there. Remember what I said? Click on it. You're going to find it has a whole list. And a lot of these are things that I don't ever use, and I've never used, but I have used the sum. I have used the average. You could do the count, the max, and the min, you know, so you kind of get into a lot of these different mathematical things. So I've selected the cell for F2. So I want to find out what Allie's average is. So here I'm going to use my functions list because it's going to make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to click on average. And notice it pops that in there, and it already goes ahead and puts in that all-important equal sign first. And then it gives you even this little help box, if you will. This is very helpful the first several times that you're doing this, or maybe the 10th time that you're doing this, because maybe it's something you don't do all of the time, but it kind of helps guide you. What I really prefer to do is get that beginning of the formula in there, and then I want to average B, C, and D for Allie. So I'm going to put in, click on cell B, and then what I'm going to do, again, it's a little bit easier one-handed, is hold my shift key, and I'm going to arrow over, and I'm going to grab these 3 cells because I want to know what the average is of these 3 particular numbers. And this time, look at your little, and again, this is the way I always tell students when I'm working with them. You've got to be the human. With the average of, 428, obviously to do an average, you divide it by 3. Is that roughly 142? Are we on the right path? If it was something like 1,200 or 1,000, obviously that's not the average. So you have to do a little bit of that human interaction with that. So we're doing the average of Allie's 3 grades. And we say, yeah, that's good. So then I hit my return button, and it fills in that average for me. And again, we don't have to do that for every single student. Once you have that average in that top cell, click on the blue box, drag down, and now you have the average for everything. Easy enough. Are we good? I don't want that to have gone too quickly.
No, I think we are good. I think one thing is if you highlight the B2, well, B2, C2, and D2 first and then hit the sigma sign, they'll all automatically be there.
Yep.
Too.
So you could do it either way. I did it the opposite way because I think it'll pop it into E2. And I'd had
unless you click on
the total points in there. And let's say you do that, that's fine. You can always do your Control Z, your undo. The other cool thing about doing it, and this might be where you actually want to take the average column. And notice I did the formulas over here. It's in column F currently, but let's say I want to put that average right next to the student name. If I click on this, you can move columns and it keeps that formula, like it's smart enough that it changed over the letters of the columns that it's in. It reads that it wanted these three, but now that we've adjusted the columns, it is smart enough to carry that through with it. So that's also a pretty cool thing that you can do. And in all honesty, if you wanted to insert another assignment, because I don't know how many teachers just look at total points. I don't think that that's probably something that a lot of teachers do. Another item that you could do is, you could take, if you put this average first, you could select and do the whole rest of the row. So anytime you add in a new assignment, it's constantly re-averaging that student's score.
Can you show us that, Sarah? Because we just had a question about that. I was like, she's answering it now.
Sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take out this total points column because it's not going to do us any good in this. I'm going to delete the entire column because it means nothing to me. And that might be too where some teachers are big fans of dropping like the lowest overall score or something like that. If you want to get rid of an entire assignment, maybe you had a snow day and you no longer were going to do that assignment, let's delete that whole column. So for Allie's average, I'm just going to delete all of that. So we're doing the average for Allie. Actually, where did that go? Okay. So nope, we don't want E8. So we're going to, actually, hang on, let me redo, there we go. So in there, we want to average all of Allie's assignments from here until the end of the sheet. So I'm going to click on cell C3, which is Allie's first assignment, C2, and I'm going to hold my shift key and I'm just going to arrow over, come on little buddy. Can I do that? Nope, there, put in my colon. Can I, hang on people, I apologize. Doing this one-handed is not really all that fun. I'm going to come back over to my average and now I'm going to select that cell. And I'm going to arrow over, makes it a little bit easier. And notice it's going from C2 colon all the way to whatever that cell is that I'm currently in. And I am just going to the end of my sheet, which is column Y. And I'm going to hit return. Now it's the same number because I only have 3 assignment numbers in here, but let's say I give her a 100 or 100 on that one. Notice how it's, what would they call that, dynamically changing? So as you add in assignment 4, assignment 5, assignment 6, assignment 7, and again, if you want to repeat that average all the way down for all of your students, click on that little blue box and drag down. Again, none of the numbers change because you haven't put in values to any of them. So as students complete things, like maybe not everybody has to do everything that is assigned, or maybe they're not doing them all in the same particular order, you can still always have that average And here's where you might choose to fill that whole entire column. Like you want to know, like, that is my average column. So you fill in that all of those cells. I just grabbed the whole column and changed it. You could change the font. You could change the size. You can make it bold so it stands out a little bit. When we're dealing with averages, I know a lot of times decimal places, and this is another format option. So you want to format all of these numbers. I would say traditionally it's the 2 decimal points. So in format, we go to number, and right now it's just automatically doing it. Notice you have a whole lot of options. You could change it to currency. You could change it to scientific notation. You could round it. You could do financial and dates and times, like whatever you're looking for. One of the generics, if you just want to have 2 decimal points, click on that, and it automatically keeps all of your numbers just to 2 decimal points. So that's another pretty cool format that you can do with formula. So we're really layering a lot of different things together.
Sarah, you are changing lives over here. Okay, so drop down and check boxes, and then we have a couple of more things that people are asking. I'm trying to wait until you get those though.
Okay, so since I did all of these averages here, I'm going to jump to sheet 10. So it kind of just gives us a little bit cleaner of a page to look with, because I do enjoy a good checkbox. And these are pretty sweet. So let's say I've got, my students' names, and I've got assignment 1 up here, and I just need to know that they actually did the assignment. And I'm going to give them a check, like, yep, you did it. Check, check, check. It's not a grade. It's not a point value thing. So I'm just going to select, and again, I'm using my shift key and I arrow down. I just want to select these, whatever they are, 8 students I think that we have. And I want to put a little checkbox in there. So again, I want to insert. So thinking logically, I go to my insert. Oh, and there it is. I want to insert a checkbox. So it's as easy as clicking on that. Boom, here we have checkboxes now. Notice it doesn't affect any other part of the sheet. It's not going to affect the previous tab. Allie did assignment 1, Maddie did assignment 1, and Mike did assignment 1. I'm waiting on the other students to finish that. And again, if you want to carry this down further, just like we did with formulas, click on that little box, drag down as far as you want, and you've got the checkboxes. So checkboxes are really simple. And if you go, oh, I didn't mean Mike. Mike, he didn't do it. Mark did it. And check boxes your little heart out. And two, if you're going to print, not that I'm a big proponent of printing, but it will print the little boxes, so that if you are a teacher and you like to walk around and you like to have that on a clipboard or something, and you're checking things off, maybe you're checking to see that students are capitalizing correctly, or just doing real quick little things. You might want to create your roster and put in your check boxes, and then you can hand walk around and check, 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 even though obviously this is meant to be digital. But you could print that out and you would have a little box there too. So the other item that was talked about was a drop down, right? So let's make assignment number 2. And again, I'm going to select my students. So maybe this one, I'm trying to think of a scenario like a yes or a no. So here we're going to go to, and this one we're not going to insert something as much as we're going to give it a particular format, I think. This is one where I always have to, oh, no, we're going to go to data, and we're going to do some validation. So we're going to go to validation, and this looks far more complicated than what it really truly is. You can pull in from somewhere else. I just like to do a list of items. So if it were as simple as yes, notice it said to separate them by commas, yes or no, and then I'm going to click, and it's going to tell you right here, it's only going to happen in cell C2 to C9, which is what I have selected, and I'm going to say save. And then notice how it looks different than it does the checkboxes, and you don't actually see anything in the cell. until you click on that little shark tooth. So did Allie do assignment 2? Yes, she did. Did Charlie? No, he did not. Did Desiree? Yes, she did. Did Lisa? Yes, she did. Did Maddie? No, she did not. Now, here's where I would also challenge you to take a little step further and use some conditional formatting. So I'm going to select the whole column. And I know this wasn't technically the question, but I'm going to push you just a little bit further. And we're going to go to the format and go to conditional formatting. And it's going to give me a side column. And again, Google likes to do a lot of like thinking for you, but I always remind myself, nope, I'm the human. I know what I need, and I don't want to format cells if they're not empty. I want to format the cells if it contains no. So if it contains, and you can see in my column, it's already reflecting that. So it gives me that, am I on the right path? Am I actually doing what I'm hoping to do? I want that to really jump out at me. So I'm going to pick a very obnoxious fill color because I'm using the paint bucket. I'm going to fill it all with bright yellow. So I know very quickly, no, that assignment has not been done. And then all I just click is done. And it's got my conditional formatting rule. I can close out that column. It'll still be there. And then when I say, did Mark do his assignment? Yes, he did. Nothing changes. Did Mike? No, he did not. So it reads that I put in a no, and it automatically changes that fill color to a bright yellow. So it's very eye-catching, which for teachers, we're doing this a lot, right? I mean, we're doing this over and over and over again. Anything that can help make it easier, I say go for. And again, you want to pull it down to your next 10 or 12 students that you've got. There you go. That doesn't even have a student's name in there, and you can change it.
Can you do a second conditional format?
So let's pick that whole column again. We want to go to formatting. And again, we're going to go to conditional formatting, right? And this is where we're going to add another rule. So right now, it automatically thinks for me that if the cell is not empty, it's going to default to this pale green color. That may be not what I want it to change to. Maybe I do want to change it that if it's yes, if the text contains yes, maybe I want it to gray out, or maybe black out. And then you can, because the text was black, if I fill it in with black, then it kind of becomes like a nothing. But notice here that there are so many different, it could be about a date, it could be about a number. So if it's a grade book and you're putting in various numbers and you want to know, like maybe all of your A's are filled in with nothing. Your B's are filled in with a pink, your C's are filled in with a blue, and your D's are filled in. You can kind of, you can absolutely customize them, and you can have multiple conditioning formatting rules. In my district, we have a data capture sheet, and we use colors very heavily to help us indicate, progress that students are making, or their current level as far as like maybe a test or an assessment has gone. And we use conditional formatting all the time. And I think we probably have like 6 or 7 different rules going on that sheet. And it is important to note that if you format a sheet in that manner and then you make copies of it, it does carry over the conditional formatting rules, which is really nice. Are we good on that?
Yeah, I think you are just, I keep saying that, but just changing lives. Protecting a sheet or protecting information on a sheet.
Okay, so actually just what I had just talked about, our data capture sheet is we make a new sheet every year for our students, and so we don't want changes to be made to prior years, right? Because that data is going to stay static. It's not going to change on us. And we want teachers to update the most current one, and we want to minimize any potential oopsies. So if I wanted to protect sheet 10, and I'm an editor, that's an important thing to note. Viewers will not have this ability. What I'm going to do is go to the little shark tooth on sheet 10. And right now I'm just dealing with this particular sheet. I'm going to go to sheet 10 and I'm going to protect the entire sheet. Now you can give it a description because I think you can give it multiple different permissions, if you will. I want to protect the entire sheet. And I'm going to call this one only me. So I'm going to protect the entire sheet and I'm going to set that permission. So it's going to tell me all of the people who can edit this range. And you can see these are my various accounts. Like I could take off any of these people. So if you have multiple editors shared on this sheet, you can kind of customize who can and who cannot edit these things. So I'm going to say done. And what do you notice? Down at the very bottom, there's a little lock, which means that there is some sort of permission set on this particular sheet. Now, if you noticed, it also gave you the option. I'm going to jump to a different sheet. So this sheet, the only person I can edit is myself or any of my other accounts that I have given access to. So if Desiree had this sheet, she would not be able to adjust anything on this particular tab, this sheet 10. Now, word of caution, if you make a copy of this at this point in time, those permissions go away. So you're only protecting it while you're working on this particular active sheet. So if you were to just be viewing my presentation right now and it's at this point at my time, 2:46, and you were to go to File, Make a Copy, those permissions don't carry through when you make that copy because now you're the original owner of the new sheet. That is important to note, and that is an important word of caution. Your permissions won't carry through. But on my new sheet, let's say I wanted to protect, and I just wanted to protect a range. So let's say I'm making a grade book and I don't want people to be able to change this column A. Did that reflect over here? So let's select a range of column A. Is that going to, my new sheet B14, I want to do A1, comma, or colon, sorry, to A, let's do down to 25. So I've selected that range, and this is going to be okay. And I'm going to set that permission. And again, I can select who can and cannot edit that particular range. So this might be where maybe you have somebody else that you guys share a grade book or something. And notice over here, it had a little green line around it. So you can see that the permissions, myself and 3 others can edit that range. And you can change that right there or trash it if you would like to. And you see how it's got the rule, and it's showing you in that green outline what range it's referring to right now. Oh, I keep clicking. Does that help?
Yeah, we have so many people like, this is awesome, loving it.
Keep in mind again, anytime you set permissions on a particular sheet, when you go to do the copying, like make a copy, the permissions will not carry over. That's why when the person asked about sharing each individual sheet out, only giving permission to, like Desiree, me only giving you permission to sheet 10 and like kind of hiding the rest of them, that's where I get a little worried depending on what data you've got. If they make copies of it, you've really got to pay attention to what it is you're actually giving them permission to see. So there are a lot of options, and until you really understand it, please make sure that you're protecting the information that a lot of us, are in charge of.
I so completely agree with that, Sarah. Okay, linking worksheets. What does that mean to link worksheets?
I'm not. I mean, I can think of a lot of different things, maybe.
So whoever asked that, can you clarify what you mean by linking worksheets? The other two questions are kind of a little bit more generic. So one is, I know you've gone through some of the things on the toolbar. Can you just kind of quickly tell us what the rest of the little buttons do?
Sure. So honestly, if you hover over them, that's going to be your easiest option. A lot of them, increase decimal, decrease decimal, other formats, and that's a lot of them are duplicated in both toolbars. I'm a very picture-oriented person, so I really like the second toolbar. But it does make sense a lot of times when you're inserting items to go to the words. This middle section, and don't forget about, let me scroll back to the toolbar and vocabulary. If you notice down here towards the bottom, I did insert pictures. So as we get over into here, the bold, the italics, the strike through, colors, the alignment, these are a lot of the same tools that you'll see throughout all of the Google applications that we have. Probably a big win for teachers everywhere, honestly, is the ability to rotate text. So again, if I go back to like my generic grade book, if you will, if I want these, like I always think like the paper grade books from back in the day, because I've been teaching for, I don't know, 18, 19 years. And I'm not ashamed of that. I've learned a lot. So let's say I wanted the title of the assignments to go vertically, so you can rotate your text. So you click on that little A that's kind of like at an awkward angle, and you can play around with how you want it to actually look. You can go straight up and down, and then if you think about it, this is another really cool and very quick way you can customize. If you have your column selected and you see that little arrow with the blue line, if I double click on that, it automatically shrinks that column to like the max size of what's ever in there. So if I were to, let me just change that font to be a little bit bigger, and I double click, it will automatically size your column to the width of the longest piece of text that's in there. And I know that sounded a little bit complicated, but you can change the way that it, now it's going down instead of up. Here is where you could insert a link. So let's say I had my website. I don't know why you would put this in your grade book, but I'm gonna show you how to do this real quick. So like, let's say I type in the word website, and this is what I did for a lot of these. Here where you see it's a link to a help topic. So what I did was I typed the word website. I've got my website up on a new tab. I'm going to copy that website. I'm going to go back into my sheet. Then I've selected that whole cell. And then I'm going to click this little chain link button. And if you notice in the parentheses next to insert link, it shows you the keyboard shortcut. I'm on a Mac, so that's the Command K. If you're on a PC or if you are on a Chromebook, it will be Control K. And I'm going to insert a link. Notice it gives you a little drop down. And in that link area, I'm going to paste my website and then hit apply. And then just like hyperlinks everywhere, it automatically changes it to a blue color with an underline. And when you hover over it, it now even, this is a kind of a new feature in Google, which I absolutely love. It gives you a little preview of what that link is. Another awesome tool that you can use, and I love this throughout all of the Google features or all of the Google applications, is the commenting button. So you can see that I'm in as myself, and if I want to make a comment, let's say I want to assign this comment or comment to a student or share this with somebody else, if you do a plus sign, and then you can see that it automatically brings up a list of a lot of people. Like let's say I want to, this is my school account. I want to comment to my school account. This could be another person, it could be another teacher, it could be to a student, and hey, check this out. And then it will actually automatically send an email to this user. It tells you down here, your plus mention will add people to this discussion and send an email. So when I say comment, great, it has sent an email to my school account. So I'll get that notification that my personal account made this comment, and now I need to go and check that out. And then that resolve button, when it's all said and done, resolve that comment, whatever it might be, and it's over. Now, something that we're not going to get to, because now that I'm seeing the time, is adding in charts. I do have some tabs down here at the bottom that go far more into detail with a lot of these things that, Desiree, if you could pop in that tiny URL again, if you guys want to make a copy of this, you'll have all of this information in there. And if you make a copy now, you'll have all of these extra things that I've actually put in here. But you can make charts. So what I'm going to do is just select here, and if I click Insert Chart, it's going to, look at that. This is, when I show this to, typically it's third graders that I go into classrooms and we talk a little bit about charts and graphs and data. And notice, like, I didn't even tell it what kind of a chart. I just clicked on that chart button. This is Google's artificial intelligence in action. Is this the exact chart that I wanted to make? Probably not. But it pulled in my column headers, it pulled in my student names, it has pulled in different colors for different assignments. Notice it's made some sort of bar graph. It looks like it's grabbing all of the numbers and it's kind of stacking things together. That even put in website down there, even though that didn't have any data as far as the assignments go. And over here it even tells you it's a stacked column chart. And when you click on that little shark tooth, you can pick any of these other charts. This is a great way to introduce students to data and making what I would consider some like logical conclusions about the data that you have. If I click pie chart, you could have a conversation like, what does this pie chart mean? Quite honestly, right now, I'm not sure. Like, what does it mean? Does Allie only have 3.5% of the total points? But let kids have these conversations. Like, what is it that you've just created? And Google's just automatically generating them. Here's a scatter chart. If you're looking at all of these different types of charts with the same data, you can have these conversations of which is a better one? Why is that better? So it's not so much about the generating of, but like the interpreting, the analyzing, the understanding of what the data is that you've collected. I love doing that because the kids just think that Google knows everything. So they just go with, yep, first one, done, sounds great. It's not always the best one. And a lot of times I find that it's probably not the best one. But then when you do find a good one, you can always customize. So the charts is a really fantastic, especially if you're doing like a data or statistics section. And then it just goes ahead and it inserts the chart. It looks like an image right on top. You can shrink it and you just pop it over to the right. And then Desiree, I know we're cutting it really close on time. I do want to highlight, you can use sheets in a lot of different ways. And what I tried to do on each of the sheets was to kind of outline it in different tasks. So if you come through, a lot of these are hyperlinks out to doing fractions with sheets. I created that for a third grade class, doing pixelated book covers. it dives into a whole template that you have access to that you can copy and use. Eric Kurtz is a great one to be sharing out resources. You can use Sheets for curation. I go into on this 5th tab about sharing and publishing. And here's a little bit more detailed information about protecting Sheets. And then finally, the very last tab is I have got a collection of resources that you can use in regards to Google Sheets. And I know that's like a lot, and I really did try to make this beneficial for, it's meant to be an intro, but you can take this intro and then in your own time and your own interest level and excitement, you can dive in deeper with some of these other resources. Obviously, I've got myself in there, Eric Kurtz, Google. I've got a lot of Google resources in here for you too. So I hope, I just turned 3 o'clock for me. I hope that this has been beneficial. I hope that I've answered a lot of questions. You guys all have on the title page means to contact myself. You can always send information to Desiree. She can get it to me if that's more comfortable for you. And then join us again on Thursday for Google Docs, where we'll jump over and we'll go into more of the word processing.
Guys, I know, I mean, people's mind, Sarah, I know you're like, I just taught a class. No, you just changed some people's lives. Like, no joke, like for real, seriously. Guys, give her some love in this chat. She will get a copy of the chat. I mean, just come on. That for free? 2 hours of your time after soldiers are like, come on now, get it together. Thank you, Sarah. For real. Okay, so a couple of questions that I got for the entire 2 hours. Yes, you will get a copy of the recording. It's on my YouTube channel. It will be on my YouTube channel. It will be public on my YouTube channel. So definitely, you may want to subscribe to that so you can get a little like ding ding whenever I post something. But if you register, you're going to get the link in an email, and then if you sign in, you're going to get a certificate. So I know some people have to hop on late, so I like to make sure to say that at the end. Guys, I've been posting the sign in over and over since like 45 after. So please give some feedback. Sarah, the feedback that we've already gotten is amazing. So please give some feedback, guys. If you need to sign in, that's where it is. If you're going to tweet, please at us. The resource page is there. Sarah, I'm going to ask you to share your screen one more time because I know we have a question that people have been asking. I'm going to get to that in a second, but I want to make sure that everybody else gets what they need. Okay, guys, so we are officially done. Please fill out the, people keep people keep talking to me privately and I can't get to everybody. Okay, so Sarah, can you please show us, for the people that are having issues, how to make a copy of your sheet again?
Yes. So here's the URL, tinyurl.com/sheets YCD, which stands for you can do, because that's my whole thing, is these are sheets that you can do. If you go up to, so you go to that tiny URL, it'll bring you here, and then you go to File, and then you go to Make a Copy. And then you will get this screen, and you'll say, okay, I'm not going to do that because I don't actually need to make a copy of it. But then you have just taken everything that I've got right now. So if you copied it at the very beginning, you're not going to have the new sheet. You're not going to have the sheet 10. You're not going to have the fake students that we put in with the formulas and all that. So if you want a new copy with all of that information added in, you can come back to this little tiny URL again, and it will bring you back to this live version, and then do the File, Make a Copy.
And is there any reason why they would not see make a copy? I did tell them to make sure they were signed in and.
I don't know. I cannot. I guess, well, if they're on mobile, maybe. If you, let me copy that. Let me go incognito. So I'm not even technically signed into any account. So now I'm viewing only. If I go to file,
Yeah,
well, I guess
you have to be signed in. So I did tell them that earlier, so hopefully that helped. But you have to be signed into an account, guys.
And if you're not able to right now, go ahead and write that down, tinyurl.com/sheets.ycd. And but if you've registered, Desiree, if you fill out the certificate, like you'll get this, right? You'll get the link.
If you sign in, if you fill out the evaluation, thank you. But if you sign in,
okay,
you get a certificate. So someone just asked, how do I get a certificate? Guys, you gotta sign in to get a certificate. Where's the sign in? It's number 2 on the thing, and I just keep posting over and over. So you has to sign in to get a certificate. Everybody's gonna get the video and the resource. So this resource will be emailed to you too, guys. So if you're like, oh, I can't, don't worry. It'll be emailed to you. We try to make it as easy as possible for you to get everything. But I can't do anything if you don't sign in. And the only people that get a certificate are people that watch this live, not people that watch it on YouTube. So there you go. Karen, sweetie, I know I've told you a couple of times. I'm going to help you in a second. All right, any other questions? Not about signing, guys. I'm going to help you with that in a second. But I want to say thank you so much to Sarah. We appreciate it.
Deborah. Thank you for letting me do this.
Of course.